Hello, everyone. Good morning to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. We'll start shortly once we have quite a sizable number in the room. In the meantime, please, if you haven't filled or completed the pre-webinar survey, we kindly ask that you do so as we wait for more people to join in. We have put the link to that survey in the chat. So respectfully, if you haven't completed it, kindly check the chat and open the link. It's a short survey. It will not take you more than 5 minutes to complete. So we do so as we wait for others to join. Thank you so much. Good morning once again. Thank you to all participants for joining this webinar. We are currently just waiting our other guest speaker to join so we can start the webinar. Thank you all so much for your patience. In the meantime, as we wait, may I ask that participants who haven't yet completed the pre-webinar survey do so while we wait to begin the webinar. We currently have put the link of the pre-webinar survey in the chat. So kindly check and just click and in a matter of minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, you would have finished completing that survey. Thank you so much. Good morning once again. Welcome to the second webinar in our series on amplifying gender responsive climate action through social media engagement. My name is Regina Bolibote, and I'm delighted to be the moderator for today's discussion. Let me start by appreciating all of you who joined in at 10 a.m. and for your patience as we wait for more people to join in. Of course, we'll start the conversation. Now, our first webinar explored the gender dimensions of climate change. It teased out the unequal burdens that women, youth, and PWDs carry. Today, we want to focus on a theme that is both timely and powerful. We're looking at citizen technology and climate change, how we can leverage technology for citizen-led climate accountability. Now, across the world and right here in Ghana, we know that technology has become a game changer. From mobile apps that deliver real-time weather alerts to platforms that track spending, digital tools are giving citizens new ways to engage, demand transparency, and strengthen accountability, especially in climate action. But we also do know that these opportunities are not equally shared. Women, rural communities, and persons with disability do face barriers to digital access. So this conversation is to allow us to explore how civic tech and innovation can bridge these gaps, how citizens can use technology to monitor Ghana's National Adaptation Plan, the NAP, and how inclusive solutions can ensure that no one or no group is left behind. I promise you a rich session with expert presentations, of course, a moderated discussion, and then there's space for your questions, comments, and reflections. So I encourage everyone to stay engaged, share your perspectives in the chat, and take away practical insights you can apply in your own work and communities. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And let me say that if you haven't completed a pre-webinar survey already, kindly do so. We have reshared the link to that survey in the chat. Please take a couple of minutes to do so. Now, we are delighted to be joined by two distinguished guest speakers, and I'm at this point honored to introduce them to you. Our first guest speaker is Dr. Nilante Heward-Mills. He's the country director for VMO in Ghana and Liberia. He is an information and communications technology for development and behavior change expert. He's worked in the last decade deploying digital solutions to support large-scale developmental projects in Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, Ethiopia, and Rwanda, including projects on financial literacy. Now, About VMware is a social enterprise that specializes in large-scale information and communications technology for development solutions that support developmental projects. VMware operations started in Ghana in 2013 and now have footprint in 25 plus countries in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. Most recently, VMware launched the first offline voice-based Gen AI for feature phones. It's an honor to meet you, Dr. Nilante Heward-Mills. Welcome to the webinar. Hello, sir. Dr. Nilante, if you can hear me. Okay, so he is in the meeting. Yes, Dr. Nilante, if you can hear me, welcome to our webinar.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Yes, Regina, would you want me to take you away from here?
No, so I just wanted to know that we can hear you. Let's meet our second guest. Our second guest is Miss Nadia Ali Dawood, a mechanical engineer by profession and a graduate of mechanical engineering from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the KNUST. Beyond her technical background, Nadia has a deep passion for social enterprise development, particularly initiatives that empower communities at the base of the pyramid in northern Ghana. Over the past 4 years, she successfully established a chain of businesses that reflect her commitment to innovation, resilience, and inclusive growth. Today, she's bringing on board a unique blend of technical expertise and practical experience in building solutions that respond to both economic and social needs. Miss Nadia, welcome to the webinar. Miss Nadia, we cannot hear you. I see that your microphone is on, but we can't hear you. Okay, so she probably has a challenge. We'll check in with her and ensure that she joins the meeting. So let's start with the meat of the discussion. I want to start with a presentation from you, Dr. Nilante, about climate change, technology, and accountability.
Right, thank you. Can I get share permission, please? So
Can you come
perhaps I
again?
can start.
Yes, you can go
Permission to
ahead.
share my screen. I don't
Yes,
think I
please
have
share
the
your screen.
functionality just yet, if you can enable it.
You don't have the functionality, you say?
No, I don't. As in, you need to allow it from your end. Anyway, I mean, I can start whilst we figure that out. So
yes, please go ahead.
yes, so Neilante is my name. I work with Viamo. Viamo is a social enterprise, an ICT4D that started in Ghana in 2012 and has quickly grown to about 25 countries in Africa, Middle East, and Asia. Our core product really is, interestingly, this is a tech conversation, but our core product really is a YAM phone, a feature phone. Yes. Okay, I see access now. Let me share my screen. All right, so we believe that once you have a cell phone, regardless of the type, and you have a phone connection, that's MNO, MTN, or Telecel, or Airtel Tigo, we should be able to reach you with information in a language you understand and also collect feedback to aid decision making and policy makers. So typically organizations come to Viamo to increase their reach, inclusion, personal engagement. Also, in Nigeria, for instance, our platforms are able to reach up to 6 million people a month. And at the end of the day, we're a tech company. So we are able to give sort of measurable results. So I see a platform like ours as an offline platform, doesn't require data, where I like to say AC here can call in for weather information, climate change information, health information, and even engage with AI on a YAM phone. We have these platforms in about 21 countries. In Ghana, we have this platform with MTN and Telecel. In Nigeria, we use this platform for accountability purposes to get feedback to government agencies. And this is sort of a screenshot of the countries that we work in and the MNOs that we work with. So as I said, we typically connect governments and organizations to the last mile, women, individuals, farmers, youth, what have you. Screenshots of organizations that we work with across the spectrum. All right, so accountability, I mean, I think it's a two-way conversation. One way is beyond everything, the concept of climate and climate change should be known, right? So there's one part of education that needs to be put forward, and the other part is based on that information, the action that the end user or Ghanaians would take. So it's a two-pronged affair. It's a two-way communication. Put out, make sure the concept is very well known. Following that, you can expect engagement from your users. So the problem really is that for the last mile, they may not have a smartphone, they may not have internet, or they cannot afford both, and they simply do not have the devices that can do this. We believe that a YAM phone like this is able to connect in real time, is interactive, and is measurable. Radio, for instance, will reach about 60%, TV less, internet about 30% or less. But in, phone penetration in Ghana is over 100%. So that's why Viamo services is heavily based on using voice messages. So if there's anything you take away here, engagement via voice in Chiga, Ewe, Dagbani, any Ghanaian language, any type of phone, anywhere in Ghana. It's a national system. Right. So I will go ahead to speak about some use cases, right? We've used this in raising awareness, as I mentioned, driving behavior change, and also collecting feedback. Usually also in agri to teach farmers sort of climate smart practices, agro practices. In Ghana as well, with 100,000 farmers with an NGO called Solidaridad. Generally around farmer-led behavior change, as I mentioned earlier. We've reached up to 600,000 farmers, and this project was a CIMIP project. in East Africa, I believe. And then also, I mean, climate action, climate change comes with a lot of emergency weather, adverse conditions. So automated early warning systems, right, for most at-risk persons. And then phone survey. So for me, what's very important is the feedback loops, right? You can bombard people with messages, but you also need them to tell you what they think. You need them to tell you how they would want you to take action. And I'm talking about political actors and how to get their voice heard. Yeah, that's the term I'm looking for. To democratize climate change information and decision making. So for this project, for instance, there were about 400,000 people who engaged with the Viamo platform, responded to surveys, and we saw a 17% increase in the expected behavior. So to put in a nutshell, we've run multiple of these projects, and maybe I can also talk about the projects in Nigeria where in 2 years we had over 200,000 bits of feedback on an accountability hotline, right? So whereas a Google form will collect maybe 50 logs, WhatsApp form may get some WhatsApp groups. We're able to get, using YAM phones and lay perspectives, very low literate, even semi-literate, literate. We got 200,000 bits of feedback that were disaggregated by age, by gender, and by district. So these bits of feedback were now escalated to municipal district chief executives as to what their constituents were saying. So out of these 200,000, every district got feedback on per their focal area, and then the political actors were able to work on that. So that's how you would use a very, I would say, dumb technology to democratize receiving and sharing information and using this to inform decision making. I would from here move on to talk about the latest technology that we have, where we've transitioned from pre-recorded messaging in Chiyewe, as I mentioned, to AI for YAM phones, right? So this is artificial intelligence, similar to what you would do with a Siri. You can do the same with a 150 cedis phone and engage with AI and get your question about climate or any other thematic area answered in real time. Regina, please let me know if I'm going over time. I have about 2 more minutes.
Yeah, okay. Just about 3 minutes. So you can go ahead.
Right. So initially, our first version was simple pre-recorded messages, curated messages. So you call, you choose your language, you listen to information on health and climate, on agriculture, etc. And then we moved to personalized. Now we have gone to voice first generative AI, right? Using Gemini, ChatGPT. As a matter of fact, we have a collaboration with Google to power this service with their AI bots, Gemini. So we leapfrogged desktops. Those were 2 decades ago. Internet, and now even social media bots, and now you can use a YAM phone to access. If you want to try this yourself, you could dial 231 on MTN, and you can engage on a phone call for free. I must add, for free. So the free component, what this does is 2 things: scale. So what this means is 33 Ghanaians, let's assume MTN has 28 million subscribers, now have access to AI. That's number 1. 2, it democratizes in that it's not about those who have the technology and those who don't have, right? So regardless of your phone type, you're now able to engage with an AI understand concepts, get new information, and even provide feedback. We've actually also implemented this with UNICEF in Ghana for young people. This also includes surveys, feedback. Unfortunately, there's no climate action on that UNICEF, but it allows young people to ask questions about reproductive health. Again, for me, the key components are inclusivity, because you have it in Dagbani, you have it in Hausa, you have it in Ewe, Ga, Chi, and it allows kids from all over the country to access health information and engage with an AI on their health areas. We ran a pilot in Zambia, and these are some of type of questions that people were asking, mainly about health, but I see a lot of use cases for agriculture and climate action. And for me, what struck out a lot was that 33%, there were 33% more questions by women. In no way are we saying women are talkatives or like to talk a lot, but we see that they engage more when they have the opportunity to gain knowledge on the platform, at least. And they come back and ask more questions about their health, the health of their kids, and other information that they alternatively wouldn't have gotten. So again, with regards to climate, we run this AI in Pakistan as a disaster response and preparedness tool. Used for some advisory work, some training, and also collecting feedback. And also an omni-channel digital assistant working with GIZ in Kenya, GIZ Fair Forward in Hindi and Kiswahili. Also supporting farmers with agronomic practices, climate smart practices, etc. Yeah, and then in Ghana, we are hoping to make this AI available in Chi. So to wrap up, very basic systems like a YAM phone can be used to solicit feedback, to create accountability systems that can be channeled, elevated, or escalated to inform decision making, democratizing these decision making efforts, and also can be used to inform the general public at scale. So I'll wrap up here in case there are questions. I'm happy to take them later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nilante. And we will ask questions when it's time for, of course, from participants when it's time for the Q&A. But right about now, let's take our next presentation from our next speaker. And I already introduced her in the person of Mrs. Nadia to Ali Dawood, mechanical engineer by profession and a graduate of mechanical engineering from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So when Dr. Nilante was speaking in his presentation, he talked about a lot of innovations, but something struck me. 33% more questions from women on one of the platforms. And that indicates the quest and the desire for learning by women. We know that women are among the groups most affected by climate change who bear unequal burden of the impact of climate change. We also know that women have been tagged and described as agents of resilience. So we want to delve into that aspect, the resilient nature of women when it comes to climate change. And that is what Ms. Nadia Tu will be talking about in her presentation. Ms. Nadia Tu, if you can hear me, can you go ahead? We're ready to listen to you. Ms. Nadia Tu, can you hear me? Miss Nadia Tu, if you can hear me, we're ready to listen to you. Okay, we seem to have a problem with our next guest speaker.
Hi, Ruby. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yeah, you're here. Great to have
Okay,
you.
yes, yes, good,
Yes.
good, good, good.
So I've already announced we'll be speaking about women as agents of resilience. And
Yes,
so you can
please.
go ahead. We're ready to listen
Okay,
to you.
all right. So kindly, if you could project my slides for me, I would do one or two challenges. Okay, so I mean, listening to our initial speaker, I have had the opportunity to run a project with Viamo. It has been helpful and impactful to women in our circle in the northern region. So, talking of Dagbani, I mean, it is, it is. Yeah, so just to take us through the realities of what women are doing and what they are going through, I will just have to do more practical discussions around that. So, I mean, let's a bit of introduction, like our hosts mentioned, women in Africa have long been the backbone of our communities' development with lots of challenges. We still, but despite all these barriers, I mean, African women go through a lot of hurdles to cross the stereotypes. I mean, through pursuing education, entrepreneurship, leadership roles, and then making significant continues to their societies. Our stories of resilience and successes are inspiring. Examples are through empowerment and progress in the face of adversity. So, I mean, around the areas of education, we know women across the continents are defying societal expectations. For instance, going through as a mechanical engineer, we have other women in the mining sector, other women in aerospace, other women in agribusiness, the farming, I mean, taking farming as a whole lot for them. And we do this all through education, I mean, leadership opportunities, as well as the STEM. I mean, we have, and currently we know the governments are having specific STEM education for young women, which are really very good for us as women within our spaces. I mean, some of the key areas women are thriving as well are the entrepreneurship and economic, empowerment, from small scale farmers to tech innovators. I know Viamo has a lot of women in tech, building businesses like we know of, great and creating jobs. When we build business, we are creating jobs and then driving economic growth in our countries through some initiatives that support women-owned businesses. I mean, the challenges of finances are being supported. Women are reshaping economic landscape and communities, and then inspiring the future leaders as well. So it's exciting to talk a bit about some of the women doing exceptional around the climate change areas. So talk of Beatrice Nutepo from the coastal Ghana, oyster farming and mangrove restoration. Somebody will ask, how much oysters do we consume? It's not about how much we consume. It's about the impact it is making. It is another people's livelihood. That is what they survive on. Women, young people around the areas in the coast survive a lot on these oysters. And so when the threats of cutting down the mangroves were going off, what did she do? Madame Beatrice took up the challenge of, going back to traditional farming, seeing the threats, their livelihoods, and the climate threats. She has to get her community back to build, to put up the mangroves, ensure that they survive such that the oysters will survive there. She has gone international. It's not just local. She's been on international level. When you search online with this, of for her information, you are going to get it. Talk of moving away from Ghana, we talk of Bangladesh. We have Bushra. I mean, these are her pictures. Bushra is the chief heat officer. She uses her role, she works on mitigating risk from extreme heat. I mean, we know those parts of the countries are very hot. And then she uses her knowledge, her information to work around the increasing with climate change, focusing on policies, awareness, and interventions in Dakar. Not, she's a, I mean, her role is a good example of institutional innovation to adapt to climate hazard. We have Naomi from Zambia, who is, I'm so much excited about this young woman from Camfed. I mean, they have this climate smart agriculture, which I'm a board member on. I mean, it's exciting how you see young women trying to strive, trying to be resilient, despite all the challenges we face as young women in the face of this. So Naomi trains women and girls in climate smart agriculture, such as producing drought resistant crops and agroecology through her demonstration farms. She works with young women, smallholder farmers. So it just goes beyond the strength and resilience of women through climate, goes beyond just women, but the world at large, trying as much as possible to empower the community, society, such that we'll be able to fight this climate actions and be resilient along the way. So I have their pictures just for you to have a look at them, to identify what they do and how they look like. These are pictures I picked online. This is from BBC 100 Women Spotlights for Naomi and the others. So when you type their information online, you are going to get more around them. I mean, so this is a picture coming from the northern Ghana, where one of the community organizations I'm a board member on, Peace for Life Foundation. So women are, I mean, sowing using the climate smart methods, trying to prepare themselves to prevent any climate issues, their challenges, especially droughts in the northern region. So these and others are what women are doing. And at the end of the day, they get good harvest. They are able to produce, to package, and then improve on the production. They add value to the product such that they can be resilient through the year, they can survive, they have children to take care of, they have other factors as well to survive on. I mean, these are some of the yields they got. I mean, through their conservative agriculture practices, they got the yield. Can we go to the next slide so that participants can see? And I hope I'm on time. Yeah, these are some of the, I mean, success stories we are getting through this climate smart agricultural practices from, this is from Wale Wale for you. I mean, there are some key themes and lessons I would like us all to take up as women being strong and, I mean, resilient. These women took up local knowledge and innovation. Women tend to draw more of indigenous knowledge, traditional and local ecology knowledge, that is on agroforestry, land use, I mean, mangrove management. Sometimes you go and then you see what they are doing. You ask them, they said, mothers, our forefathers did it. And so when we do it, it's going to help us, I mean, face the challenges we are now. They are being adaptive and flexibility. We all know how women were forced to pivot livelihoods, example, switching crops, shifting income sources, not giving the best of land to plant on, but yet they are able to take it up and then, I mean, do the planting very well. Sorry, I missed a bit of the network, was a challenge. So for community organization and collective actions, women wouldn't want to do things alone. They want to have the community together because together we stand. It's a whole, when the community is built strongly, we all survive, we all thrive, and then we keep on living as, I mean, as a whole. Empowerment and capacity building. women, we provide such trainings, opportunities, education, providing tools and access or credit and technology like VAMO is doing to women. And then we tend to use it and adapt such that we are able to, meet and face all our challenges along the line. So some key lessons I would want us to look at. It's, gender sensitive disaster preparedness. We recognize our roles and risk during, harsh conditions, floods, and all that. The recent flood, in northern region, that was caused by the opening of the Bagri dams, affected a few of the women within. And apart from this year, previous years were worse. This year it's somehow better. But however, we are able to survive through. Most of the women are able to continue living, able to meet and then mitigate this risk through, all opportunities given them. Institutional advocacy through the learnings we give them, through the teachings, engagement, whatever we take them through, women are able to keep up, women are able to survive it, such that life continues as it is. For economic resilience, we all know women are always trying to provide alternative livelihood. She is farming this season, but when the season is off, she is, adding value to the product. So if a woman is farming peanuts, for instance, during the off season, she does production of into peanut butter, peanut cake. She is, she doesn't move. She thinks ahead of time. She is always ahead, moving on, and then trying so much so that she's able to resist all these things. And they are really amazing and mind-boggling sometimes. You ask yourself how we are able to do this and how these rural women especially are able to do this as well. But that is what women are made up of. And then so we are excited given all the supports and opportunities available. So in order to conclude, if there is enough time. So we see women at central to climate leadership. There is no way we talk about climate leadership without women being central, the pivot of it. Their resilience, strength in the communities. They make the whole community stand strong. Investing, so we believe strongly that investing in the women's agency ensures sustainable adaptation. You invest in a woman, we said this is what we are going to do. Despite all the challenges, she will be able to meet you up, to get to the roots of it. And then so we have, finally to say women's stories inspire global action on climate resilience. Yes, of course, there are millions and millions of stories that are inspiring, still keep pushing, women are keeping pushing, yet the climate is getting where it is, but yet women are still striving to make it very, to make life comfortable, to get food to our tables, to get our products, to get you whatever you have to get around the world. So it is exciting to know that despite all these climate challenges we have, women are in the center of it all, and are actually focusing ahead to what is next, always thinking ahead of what is next. So I think, thank you so much. I'll just end here since we have limited time for this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nadia, for your presentation, talking to us about the resilience shown by women when it comes to climate change. And I like the examples you've given. It adds evidence to the discussion that women are not just victims, but they are also agents, active agents of change. And when supported, they can go a long way to influence Ghana's adaptation policies and actions. Now, let me announce at this point that participants can send in their questions, comments, reflections in the chat. And once it's time for the Q&A, we'll read that and also take questions. But right about now, I just want us to tease out some of the burning issues from the conversations or presentations we've had from both speakers. So I'll start with you, Dr. Ni Lante. In your presentation, you did mention a number of innovations and platforms that have been championed by Verbo specifically, and it's noteworthy. And in fact, it's good for us to acknowledge the efforts in that regard. But what I want to know in all the work you're doing, how have women, youth, and persons with disability been factored into these innovations in technology? How well are are they receiving, or how accessible are they to women, youth, and persons with disability? Dr. Nilante, could you kindly unmute? Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry. Yeah, that's a good question. So perhaps I'll start from the Viamo end of things, right? The gender split in Viamo is almost 50-50, where, and as I mentioned, there's only 20% of Viamo staff that is front facing. The other 80% are engineers, software engineers, data analysts, NOC engineers. So at any given point, when my platform with MTN is down, Telecel is down, or UNICEF is down, Aram, who's a female engineer, is the one who will look at it. At any point when we need to do any adaptations with gamification, we have Priscilla, and our quality assurance team, half of it is women. And we are running a project with GIZ for women's empowerment in 6 regions. And how we go about it starts from the designing, the co-designing. So we don't design for everybody. Well, we do, but we design specifically for women, right? So it starts from a desk review, a gap analysis of what women need, what women want, and that's phase 1. The next phase is actually to play out these assumptions in a workshop with women to validate them. Once we're done, we agree that this design, the proposed implementation, actually resonates with issues that actually pertain or exist. So it starts from, as I said, from our infrastructure in-house, very women-led. And when we are building projects, we co-design with women, test out, do pilot tests with women to ensure that it is fit for purpose. Interestingly, all our voice recordings are by women. The science tells you that people are more likely to listen to a motherly, caring voice delivering message as opposed to somebody who sounds like me. So when we do call you, you're going to hear a very warm, when you listen to a message from Viamo's services, you would hear a warm, loving, but very assertive voice of a woman in multiple languages. Once we are done with this, the data disaggregation is by age, young people, is also by gender, all right? So, and perhaps I can just go on to UNICEF and share with you how the backend data. So we disaggregate data by gender, by age, by region, where we're able to tell what women are saying, what their aspirations are, intended future behavior, etc., per the information that they give us. And I was hoping to have this. I should be able to show it to you in a few seconds. For persons with disability, I'm happy to say that apart from persons who cannot hear, we pretty much are across the spectrum, right? Um, for because it's audio, so we cater quite a bit to that spectrum. Additionally, when we are designing this project, we always do ensure that we have persons with disability in the space, in the room, so that their perspectives are also heard. I was at the workshop last week where visually impaired persons were complaining about how they are not able to navigate information and it's not tailored to them. And I mentioned to them that we now have voice-based offline AI. They don't need to, which would literally run them through and they can get responses in real time. So with regards to, and then I also must mention that 70% of our audience is youth. 70% of folks who listen to us are youth. And the women demographic is slightly lower, around 45, but that's also representative of the phone ownership sort of dynamics in Ghana. I'll pause here if there are any further questions.
Very well. I'll come back to you, Dr. Nilanti, but let me go to Miss Nadia. This question about how receptive women, youth, PWDs are to these technological innovations. Because you've spoken to us about the resilience of women, I want us to explore for in their quest for resilience, what kind of barriers have these women um, experienced or faced when it comes to leveraging technology for sustainable adaptation?
Okay, so this is an exciting question. However, for some of these women in the past and now, used to, due to traditional systems, using technology, didn't have any knowledge, no information about any technology. Even the adaptation was a bit difficult, how to adapt on. So I'm just thinking of a common one, for instance. Okay, so for one of them, I think give us an example of doing the production, just using a blender to blend some kind of, products, for instance, pepper into powder. They didn't know what it is. They didn't know how to use it. They were used to the grinding mill, which we realized were not made of stainless steel, so it wasn't good for consumption. So these high grade blenders were okay for them. It was a bit difficult for them to use, using other equipment for it. But despite that, it comes along with a bit of training, understanding them. The thinking through deeply, involving one of them into accepting it, made it easier to go back to educate them that this is what it is. It is used for this, giving them the relevance of it, the importance of it, and the value of it. That is one way to get them to adapt to some of these things. And again, when it came to technology, other ways, for instance, around the financing, trying to use the VSLA model to group savings. They realized the strength, the solidarity among themselves. That worked better for us than using mobile systems for funds transfer. And there are so many of these examples as well. Apart from that, the gaining government support through the district assemblies with some kind of innovative ideas has also been a barrier or a challenge for women at that level with disability. But despite all these challenges, we try to go through the education, understanding them, let them understand this, and ensure every technology that is coming is not harmful to their health. Already they have, there is, I mean, a natural, challenge they are facing. So anything that comes up fits, and then they are able to use it properly according to the kind of disability they have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nadia. Dr. Nilante, you're a practitioner on the ground. What can you say or tell us about these barriers, some of which she's mentioned, the lack of capacity or technical know-how to use these technological innovations, accepting also that it is time for women, youth, PWDs to adapt and to use these new innovations and not stick to the old ways of doing things. What are some of the barriers that you've identified or noticed in your line of work?
Yeah, so I would say first of the technology barriers, right? And when I say technology barriers, even devices, that's one thing to partake in the digital economy. Two, there's cost barriers at that. And to add to that, I mean, you merge both ownership of devices, the cost, data. Data is also a big barrier. And then you also have even how to use it, how to use the technology. It doesn't come natural to everybody. Finally, you also do have agency, right? So it's one thing getting the information, but are they the final decision makers? Do they have the agency to make decisions? Do they need permission from your husband, or permission or buying from their mother-in-law, for instance? So it's a mix of infrastructure and social cultural barriers that do exist, but we do realize that slowly the tide is turning and more women are embracing technology, are embracing smartphones, WhatsApp, partaking in the digital economy. Nonetheless, there's a lot of work to be done to ensure that their voices are amplified, heard, and their voices are taken into context when making decisions. Over.
So a quick follow-up on that. There's a lot of work you say. How can or what work needs to be done? How can these barriers be addressed so that tech or climate tech solutions are not only inclusive but benefit the very people who are the most affected?
I would say mainstreaming gender into all these interventions. So it shouldn't come as an afterthought. It shouldn't come after programs have been designed and we're thinking how to get more women. From the point of the design, we should make them more women friendly. For instance, where are you going to disseminate that information, right? Are you just going to put it around billboards in town, or you're going to put it market areas where you know women would be, or you're going to put it in the maternal health clinic, right? Also, are you designing, taking into context the woman's workflow, daily activities, child minding, right? As a caregiver, are you doing this understanding that she has limited time during the day? So I would say it comes from the designing of all these interventions, mainstreaming all these, and deliberately integrating women voices, perspectives, and women-led designed projects into all the things that we do.
Thank you. Ms. Nadia, let me come
Yes.
to you. From
Yes.
what we've heard so far, do
Yes.
you see that there's that deliberate effort to design around women, youth, PWDs, and other marginalized groups? Do you see that's in our current way of doing things as institutions, as government agencies, as even civil society organizations?
Yet, I mean, you go into a meeting room on the high table, a meeting room that is discussing issues of women. And on the high table, it's 5 men sitting up there. And the whole topic it's around women. I mean, just like Doc said, we need to put them into the thinking. We need to put women into the design, the use, the ergonomics of things and all that. So that for until now we are pushing and getting changes, a few of it, but it's still around 10%. I mean, there was a program I was very involved before we realized they were had to talk about women and climate change, and there were men on the table. International program. So I called the officer and I was like, "Are we serious?" The gender officer. I asked her, "What is going on? We are talking about women, and it is men leading in discussion, leading implementation, leading design work. It is not done so. I mean, in the area of share these days, it's for the construction of equipment, manufacturing, and design. It is the men who design for women to implement. You are designing a roster, you are designing a needle, you are designing this. You don't consider the health, I mean, the efficiency, how the women will use it, and all that. So we think women will need to be involved. Women need to be involved in these decisions, in this design thinking, in this from the idea generation till the final implementation. Women are not given enough priority there. So we need women to be given much more priority around that angle from all over, from the government, from the civil society, from other, I mean, organizations. It is refreshing to know that Viamol has all that, and I mean, I've really enjoyed that part of the conversation as well. Okay, thank you.
Very well. So at this point, we'll just invite questions and comments. If you have questions or comments, kindly gesture, or you can put it in the chat, and we will come to you as and when, as we continue with the conversation. Dr. Nilante, I'm coming to you now. We've spoken a lot about women, about youth, about PWDs, but the general citizenry, um, do you see that there's this appetite for citizens to hold government leaders accountable for climate action in Ghana using
Um,
technology?
well, to be honest, I don't think there is. And as I mentioned earlier, it starts from the concept, right? On a scale of of the needs of Ghanaians, that falls a bit lower. However, that is also based on understanding and shared understanding of the concept. So I think organizations like ours can do a better job of explaining the concepts, the cause, the effects, and how it impacts the lives of Ghanaians. Once that is clear, I believe Ghanaians would demand more of policymakers. So I think there's an unmet space of information, right? That we need to fill. There's a word we need to fill. And then once that happens, I think the continuum will just run its natural course where we would demand more from our policymakers, the decision makers.
Could it be because right now we're talking about technology or climate tech, that people think about technology and they think in very complex, complicated terms, and not necessarily thinking, oh, it's just a mobile phone that you can use, it's just an app you can log on. Is it our thinking of how technology is or should be that is limiting our engagement with leaders and institutions as far as climate change is concerned?
Again, I would say it's not even just climate change, right? But generally, accountability systems across the country are not great. How do we ensure that our voices are heard at the municipal assembly? How do we ensure that decisions that are made are informed by citizens? So I think across the spectrum, accountability systems are not great in Ghana, and it might even be more pronounced when it comes to tech and climate action, right? So it's also that it's a concept, is what you know and where you're from. But I believe once people know about it, and as you mentioned, they know that it's a very simple, if it's set up, it's disseminated well, it's sustainable, and people know that with a click of a button or with a simple phone call, they will be able to hold people and systems accountable. I'm sure they would definitely go for it and hold their decision makers more accountable.
I'll come to you again on a question about the National Adaptation Plan, but let me go to Miss Nadia. This question, and in fact, we are still accepting questions, comments, and reflections in the chat. And if you want to speak, kindly gesture, and would allow you to speak. Alternatively, you can just put it in the chat. Miss Nadia, this question really is is for you. And I think it boils down to the same concept of accountability. Women, youth, PWDs, marginalized groups, are they in any position to hold leaders and organizations responsible for climate change accountable? Do you think so?
Yes, the general people with disability, let me say, we have worked with them, we've had a lot of interactions, and then are still struggling with these accountability issues, holding, the right people accountable for issues around them. For instance, when it comes to education, when it comes to health, when it comes to infrastructure, where things need to be placed for them to be specific. Sometimes we ask around the hospitals, how many people will go to the hospital who is dumb and get somebody to translate immediately. It takes a whole process to get that. Either they ask the person, you sit down, we're looking for the person who will come and help us with the translation. When it comes to around access to finance, what they are demanding, they are not able to provide. When it comes to infrastructure, how many of our infrastructures are disability friendly for them, despite we trying as a country to meet their needs? The list is countless. We can go on and on and on. But however, I know their leadership is trying their best to push. We also do at our own angles where we get the opportunity to work directly with them. For saying they are, they getting what they want, it's not, I think it's not enough. A lot more has to be done for them in all aspects of, the social, economic, and human aspects. That's basically all around the SDGs. We need to look at them and then give them more support as a country. And those who are accountable for this should also look at it as well. More work has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Nilante, so I said I was going to come to you on a question relating to Ghana's National Adaptation Plan. So in our first webinar, we did speak about the gendered impact of climate change. We also did look at some of the gender priority areas in the NAP, and the official from the EPA actually enlightened participants about even the development process of the NAP and how gender is an integral aspect of it. Now, we're speaking about accountability and technology. Help us understand, really, what is the pathway for citizens to engage the NAP using technology to ensure that there is indeed accountability?
I would reference the system that we built in Nigeria, where a toll-free hotline first educates you about the NAP, right? Various segments, and then solicits feedback, which is toll-free, is naturally accessible, multiple languages. So that's one way. Another way is periodically soliciting feedback, multiple channels, and I wouldn't say just phones, but soliciting feedback on the NAP across different demographics, right? So lower class, middle, higher class, whatever, like in terms of education, gender, and this should be an ongoing basis. So not a one-off where we are also making the results of the feedback collected known. Because there's one thing to collect feedback and another thing to show your constituents that you're using that feedback deliberately and you're using it to inform decisions. So if that loop is not closed where feedback collected is not used and then decisions made are not disseminated widely, people will stop giving feedback. So I see as one way these publicly available systems to collect feedback on an ongoing basis, and then using the same networks to disseminate decisions and impacts that was made. Over.
Okay, thank you very much for your response. This comment here from Rosina says, I will commend Viamo for involving more women in their field of work. More women should be involved in decision making. So that's a comment from Rosina. Your comment, reflection, or question also welcomed in the chat. Or if you want to speak, you can simply just gesture and then we will allow you to speak even as we continue with this conversation. Dr. Nilante, I'm coming to you again about, because you've spoken a lot about the need for everybody to be on board, a concerted effort, even how you've spoken about overcoming the digital divide. But really, when it comes to youth and grassroots networks, what role can they play in leveraging technology for climate accountability in Ghana?
We have a population board similar to a lot of other countries, right? So the youth, possibly as defined under 35, possibly constitute about 60 to 70% of the population. That being said, they have a massive role to play as stakeholders and as the ones who would actually live through the decisions that they are making. So I would say their role in this is critical. How to engage them is always the tricky part, right? Do they have formalized groups? Will you use social media, or will you go and find them on the platforms that they are on, TikTok? Or will you just simply just put out ads, TV, radio? I would say it's a mix of all. It's a mix of all these channels to reach them. But I find that formalized groups work a bit more efficiently. So definitely they're a core stakeholder, and finding multiple channels and the most efficient channels to engage them is critical. Over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nilante. Miriam, I see you've unmuted your microphone. Are you willing to ask a question? If yes, go ahead. Miriam, can you hear me? Okay, so it's probably an unintentional act. Miriam, if you can hear me, kindly mute your microphone. That's if you're not going to ask a question now, but if you want to, go ahead and ask that question as we continue with the conversation. Miss Nadia, this question is to you. Now, when we talk about the digital divide, literacy, affordability, connectivity, and Dr. Nilante has alluded to some of these issues in his presentation, and of course, his responses to some of the questions that have been posed to him. But for you, and you work in the civil society space, what role or what avenue or opening do you see for civil society in bridging this digital divide?
So yeah, basically for civil society to be able to bridge the digital divide, I mean, one way I see it's, I mean, designing programs that fits within that area. If we are able to design programs that are digital inclined, and then we know how to do the implementation and get the societies to use. So, for instance, through some educations, I know there is this company in South Africa who have, I mean, a tool that you can use a wireless system for without internet for a number of people per a box. I think the B box or something they call it. I mean, so these are things civil society can adopt. We could adopt also in the some of the, interventions we implement. So areas, let's say on our farms, on the climate smart farms, we could use some digital, tools. It could be, something people can use on the farms. Here's somewhere she's seeing everything on an app. What is happening on the farm, the temperature, the climate. What readings do we expect today? When do we expect? We're able to read and understand that very well. I mean, in our health sector, those things can be applied in the health sector as well. I mean, in all aspects of our implementation. So we are able to use this could help us achieve some, digital importance and then inclusivity as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Nadia. Again, we're taking questions and comment reflections as well as some suggestions. Dr. Nilante, as you were speaking of the prospects, I was thinking his opportunities and what avenues or pathways are there for innovation hubs like yourself, BAMO, and other youth-led civic tech organizations. As far as climate change adaptation is concerned in Ghana?
I think there are a lot of opportunities. I think there's so much, even better if it's locally grown. It all boils down to the issue about funding, right? And how sustainable this will be for these organizations. So definitely, yes, there's a massive part to play. Decentralized in that it's not just based in Accra, but across the country. It's locally owned, locally designed, and can reach further than any sort of centralized organization or a government can. So one, I think there's a lot of opportunity, and two, I think that there's a lot of promise in decentralizing these hubs to reach more people and contributing to democratizing these digital solutions. Over.
To democratize and to decentralize, it means that the policymakers and those who are the home of affairs must realize the importance of it. At
Mhm.
this current juncture in our life, if I can call it that way, do you see that commitment, that realization that it's important to incorporate technology in climate change solutions and climate change actions?
I think there's a groundswell. I think it's building up. It's not there yet. It's not where it needs to be. But there's definitely the recognition. And I've seen bits and pieces of initial efforts to integrate climate action in decision making, but we are not where we need to be. And CSOs, INGOs, private sector, MNOs and all other partners that can come on board. It will be a collective action. It wouldn't come just from one body or one regulatory institution. So yes, we are not where we need to be, but I think we're getting there.
Okay. I think you're being very diplomatic in your responses, but it's fine. That's okay. That's okay by me. And we're wrapping up, so I'll come to you shortly for your closing remark. I'll take your closing remark after I've heard from Miss Nadia. But before that, though, in thinking about sustainability of these initiatives, I just want you to, for the sake of those who joined the webinar later and may have missed your presentation, if you can list some of these innovations or platforms where climate accountability can happen using technology. If you can list some of these, even what Biamo is doing or others that you've mentioned in your presentation, just for the purpose of recall for those who just joined.
Okay. I'm happy to go first. So on MTN, we have a short code 231. And then after this conversation, I'll speak to my team about including some content on climate adaptation, climate change, accountability. So there's 231 on MTN, there's 321 on Telecel, 5100. That's for UNICEF on MTN. All these are open, free, where you can hear some information on climate change, climate adaptability. And hopefully, next time we meet, we'll have some content on accountability. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Miss Nadia, I'm coming to you for your closing remark.
Yeah.
You've spoken about women as agents of resilience when it comes to climate change adaptation, and also looked at some of the issues relating to technology, access, internet connectivity, the divide. What will be your closing remarks as we wrap up this conversation?
All right, thank you. So basically, I mean, climate adaptability for women isn't something new. It's not highly recognized, but we as women in our spaces recognize the little effort because women go to pick up traditional old age, I mean, strategies and methods to implement in this era. It is all because we don't have access to financing to support they need to, and a bit of accountability spaces as well. So in my remarks, women deserve that we do everything. We deserve all what needed. We deserve all the positive modern technology tools, the equipment comes up. Women should be considered as a good percent on our total population of the country. I know we make very good population across in the country, and so as much as that are being taken, I mean, women should be given that high priority. And then when it comes to around the disability aspect as well, I mean, they should be given that priority as well. So we should be put in a design thinking. We should be put at the high levels for decisions. We should be considered and put in decision making for women. Men shouldn't make decisions for women. Women should make decisions for women. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nadia, too, for your closing remarks. Dr. Nilante, I'd come to you. If anybody on the meeting or in the meeting has any comment or question, you can ask that even as we wrap up. Dr. Nilante, your closing remarks.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on the call, and I'm happy to have shared some of these insights. I think, as I've always said, and you'd say I'm being diplomatic, I think there's you can see some work that's being done, but I don't think we are there just yet, even the concept. So there's so much work from our end before we even
Okay.
hold the gatekeepers accountable. But that can be done hand in hand. I'm hoping that in the next, I would say years, not months, there's more action, climate action, there's more accountability, and there's more consensus on how to mitigate the effects of climate change, get more women involved, give women the voice, and have this translate into policy decisions. Thank you so very much for having me, and I'm looking forward to joining you in the future.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lante, for your insights on this particular topic. Your expertise have shone through the conversation, and we appreciate that. Also, thank you to you, Miss Nadia, to Ali Dawood, for the freshness you brought to this conversation. And for all participants, we're very grateful. Please, we have put in the chat the link to the post webinar survey. Kindly take a couple of minutes after this meeting to complete that survey. We'll also share with you that survey via email as soon as this is done. And once you complete that, we will be willing to incentivize or give you access to some of the presentations that have been done in this meeting. So please complete Please complete the post-webinar survey, and we'll see you in our next conversation. Thank you so much for joining. And by way of wrapping up, today we have reminded ourselves that climate accountability cannot be left to just government. Technology gives citizens the power to track promises, demand delivery, and share solutions. And like Dr. Neil Lante has said, there's a groundswell, but of course, we have to do more to ensure that accountability is real. And that accountability can only be real if technology is accessible to women, youth, and persons with disability across Ghana. Our closing message from us here at GenSet is that let's make citizen-led monitoring part of our climate future. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. Until we talk to you the next time, it's been a great opportunity speaking and interacting. Have a lovely Thursday and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us too.